Good morning, class. I thought I'd give a brief lecture, basically that's going to cover weeks 9 and 10, which is going to be this week and next week. We're getting into the part of the course where we're going to start talking about the research paper and really the components that go along with the research paper, which is going to be the first up is going to be the research paper proposal. We're going to talk a little bit about that here momentarily. But we also have the second component, which is going to be the annotated bibs, that really deals with those six sources that you're going to need for your research paper. And again, we will start really talking about that during week 11, which would be a modular 11 in about 2 weeks or so. But some real quick housekeeping tips, things that we need to sort of discuss. I know some of y'all are getting your power and internet back. It seems like most of my students that I've talked to that have emailed me said that their power and their internet is coming back, which is good. I'm glad. I hope everybody else is coming along. Everybody was safe and sound um, during the last two hurricanes. Hopefully, we won't have, excuse me, any more as our hurricane season continues to roll on here. We really got about another month or so of this. But we will play things by ear as they come. But as I have said and stated and emailed and put in Blackboard announcements over the last few weeks, since these storms, remember, I have extended deadlines for storm related events. That basically means those two, really, there was only two that most folks were missing. One was the peer review for SA3. Remember, you're comparing contrast, and then the final draft of SA3. So what I have done, like I said in previous emails, I realized that Sunday night things were a little bit murky. The drop boxes and stuff started to close. I had the assignments set up to go until Sunday the 20th, but apparently the main drop box or the main modular 5 and 6 section wanted to go ahead and close on the 13th. I think that was the previous deadline that I extended. So I apologize on my part. Like I said, I was in Myrtle Beach with the family and we were trying to get stuff packed up and get ready to go on Monday morning. Finally got back Monday afternoon and I went back and fixed all that. Everything should be good to go as it relates to, finding peer review 3 in the discussion board and the SA3 Dropbox. The problem with Blackboard at this point, because they're going to go from what we have now this semester, starting in the spring, they're going to go to a newer version of Blackboard. So in the past, I was able to move stuff around fairly easy, basically copy and paste and sort of move one assignment sheet into another modular or another folder. I can't do that now. Nobody can do that now because they're getting ready to switch over to the new, I guess, the Master Ultra, whatever the new Blackboard is going to be called in January. That's part of the other reason some of the behind the scenes stuff that I've been doing for my particular um, department of English, if you want to call it that, has been working on getting the master setup for those courses. So it's been a pretty busy latter part of the summer and early part of the fall as it relates to that aspect of my job, on top of teaching and grading and planning and doing everything else. But I just want to let you know when I put stuff up, like assignment sheets, for instance, the stuff about the research paper and modular 9, modular 10, you probably want to download those files, print them out, put them in a folder, or at least download them and save them somewhere on your computer so you can easily, you know, get those back in case something does, like if a Dropbox or something does close, or if that section does close, because I have to give room for next week's section or whatever the case may be. Because I can't just easily move things around at this point because we're getting ready for the new Blackboard setup and everything in January. So I would definitely, when it comes to like the research paper topics and modular 9, and we'll look at those here momentarily, I would go ahead and download those, save those somewhere on your computer, print them out, email them to yourself, whatever the case may be. Because once that particular area closes, I mean, you're not going to be able to get back in, and then that's just going to be a pain for me to keep going back and open it up when everybody had, days, weeks to download and print those things out and save them on their own computer. So the new official deadline, and this really goes back to those emails I was talking about over the past week or so, is still this Sunday by 11:59, which would be October 20th, for the peer review 3 and for the final draft of essay 3. Now, just to sort of clear up some confusion, some of y'all jumped the gun, which, I mean, again, you didn't know what was going on. We all didn't really know what was going on when Helene came through and went, and then, right before Milton. Some of y'all went ahead and submitted an essay 3 final draft without doing a peer review. And honestly, it's going to be kind of pointless if you went ahead and did a final draft, if you submitted the final draft, to go back and do a peer review, because what's the point now? You already submitted the final draft. You're not really going to be able to get any feedback to go back and correct the final draft because you already submitted it. So what I'm going to do with that, and again, this is for those that haven't even, thought about doing the peer review either. I mean, if you don't have time because you're trying to get caught up with other assignments and other classes, you don't necessarily have to do peer review 3. I will exempt that, meaning if you already have a slot filled up with essay 3, your final draft, I'm just going to go back and exempt you from this particular peer review. It's not going to count against you. It's not going to count really for you. It's just going to be like, hey, you never had to, you didn't have to do it. You didn't do it. So you're not going to get 100, but at the same time, you're not going to get a 0. So your grade is pretty much going to stay where it is prior to me grading the final draft for essay 3. If you did, because some of y'all did go back, or you did half of it right, you submitted your rough draft on the discussion board, but didn't go back and review somebody else's essay. I gave you, at first I was giving everybody 100 for doing that just because of the storm, and then giving you the message, hey, once you get power back, the internet back going, to go back to get the other 50%, please review somebody's essay. Otherwise, I'd have to go back and, change the grade from 100 to 50. So if you do have, your draft up there and you want to go ahead and review somebody else's, again, they may or may not get it. Again, I will give you, your full credit 100%. Or if you want to go back and kind of, upload, let's say some of y'all did a peer review, but you didn't upload your rough draft. Well, that's a really just easy thing to do. Just go back and upload your rough draft. If you already did the peer review for somebody else, you're done. So you will get the 100% on that. And that will probably kind of help the grade a little bit. I mean, these things are not really, I mean, they're easy 100s, but they're not going to be something that, hey, I got it, let's say that you got a 70 in the class. When you go back and do this peer review, if I go back and do that and get 100, it's going to make me have an 80. No, it's probably just going to bring you up from like a 70 maybe to a 71 or a 72. It's not a big jump. It does help those that are borderline from a letter grade. Like let's say you're 88, 89, this could give you that 90. Let's say that you're a 78, 79, this could give you that 80 or 81. That's a B. So it will help in that regard. But don't feel, if you already turn an essay 3 in as a final draft, it's really probably not going to make much sense to go back and try to do, upload your rough draft, then upload, do a peer review and upload that, because your peer may or may not go back and check. But I will let that be up to you. Again, I'm going to go and check here in a little bit. And if you already did an essay 3 but didn't do a peer review, I'm just going to exempt that from you. That way you can kind of direct your attention to focus on other classes. Just start thinking about stuff in week 9 and week 10 for us, because we're going to talk about we will talk about the midterm as well. I'll probably make a separate video on that, just so that this one doesn't get too lengthy on us. but I wanted to sort of clarify and clear up some of the stuff as it relates to, should I do the peer review 3? Should I not do the peer review 3? I'm gonna let that be up to you. Again, like I said, if you already did the final drafts and didn't even start the peer review, I wouldn't even worry about starting. I just exempt that from you. It won't count for, for you, against you. It's just like you didn't do it and it wasn't there. The other thing, prior to the first storm, I did send out a student instruction survey. If you wanted to get 10 extra credit points, some of y'all have done that. And I went ahead, for those that did, that emailed me, again, go back and check some of your emails about the instructions on that. I went ahead and applied those 10 points to either SA1, 2, or 3. Some of y'all haven't, I guess, done it because I haven't seen that particular screenshot or that page that it takes you to after you hit submit on the final 2 questions of the survey. If you go back and do that, and submit it and follow the instructions that I put in that original email, give me that screenshot of that particular page that it will take you to, not the actual, you don't have to go through and give me every single page of the survey. I'm not looking for that. There's a specific page that it's going to take you to after you hit submit on the final question. Take a screenshot of that and then email me that to let me know. That's going to let me know that, hey, you went through and took it. If you do that, then I will honor those 10 points. Please let me know in the email which essay you want me to put that on. This time you can have essay 1, 2, 3, or 4, which would be your midterm. And we're going to talk about, again, we're going to talk a little bit about that, the respondents here, momentarily. If I already put your points somewhere, just leave them where they're at, because collectively, when you get all these essays in, they're worth about 70% of your grade. So you're still getting those points. And it will still help your overall grade as we move from October to November to the very, the last couple weeks of the semester. So yeah, so just make sure that you get the makeup work in, storm related stuff, by the 20th, which is this Sunday. If you haven't, I plan on starting directly grading some of these SA3s to get that grade get your grade sort of caught up. So you kind of know as we move into the last week of October, the first week of November, where you stand. The other thing that we're going to talk about deals with this week, which is week 9, modular 9. This, if you go, and I'm going to pull it up here momentarily, there's some information about your research paper. I give you a list of topics, and then I'll also talk a little bit about the first component of the research paper, which is the proposal. Sort of gives me a little insight about which topic you choose. It gives sort of the green light for you to go on to the next component, which would be the annotated bib, collecting your 6 sources. And we're going to talk about that here momentarily. So the research paper, and I'm going to download these topics. If you go to, bring this over. If you go to your actual Blackboard page, yours may look a little bit different, but it's basically about the same. You're going to go to modular 9. And so again, going back, let's look at this real quick. You should be able to. This particular class is my hybrid class of 1101, so they're pretty much caught up. So let me go to one of my online courses of 1101 to show you what I was talking about. All right. So modular 5 and 6, that's generally where your makeup work is going to be for the storm. You can click there. Some of these you're not going to need because they're not really related to the makeup work, but I did leave open the compare and contrast topics. Hopefully by now you already have a topic. The right assignment actually happened before the hurricane, so you can't really make that one up. The Dropbox is here for the 20th, and it looks like I have to go back. See, Blackboard's been kind of iffy on me. It's not letting me. Okay. The Dropbox for SA3 should be open here. I need to go back and check my other class. I will reopen up these lectures in case you need those. They're really for weeks 5 and 6. I will let those ride until the 20th as well. This is the peer review. Again, some of y'all have already done this. You click that. It's just like any other peer review that we did. You can also probably find the peer review if you look over here on discussion board and click on the discussion board and probably go, I'll move this up. It's the first one that you're going to see. You click on it. And as you can tell, some folks have done this. If you've already submitted an SA3, I probably wouldn't really waste the time to go back and do that unless you just want to. But I will exempt it if if you already submitted an essay and didn't do the peer review this time, I will exempt this particular one. We do have the week 8 lecture that talks a little bit in general about the respondents, but like I said here, after this particular lecture, I give a little bit more involved respondus video to show you where to go to find some of the information, how to download it, the videos, the contact information, that type of stuff. If you have some issues on your end as it relates to respondus and taking that midterm exam. So week 7 and 8, this gives you, again, this was pretty much last week and the week before. This talks about the midterm essay. This is basically where you're going to click. It's going to come up like this. And and basically tells you, hey, this is a Respondus lockdown browser, so you need to get the program. These are the topics. If you click begin, and this is what I'm going to show you here momentarily, because again, I kind of wanted to save this for the Respondus. All right, so just generalization about what you have to do for essay 4. It is a extended definition essay. Basically, you're going to take, you're not giving me Webster's dictionary. You're not giving me some various online dictionary definition of one of the, because if you look at these 5 topics, they each have a word in them. The first one, concept of success, the meaning of freedom, the nature of courage, understanding identity, the idea of creativity. So that's your main word that you're going to sort of extend the definition on. So you can start out by giving me, if you wanted to, some sort of a, literal definition of it from Webster, right? But then you got to extend that to sort of give me your own personal definition of what you think success is as it relates, maybe if you're going to do number 1, the concept of success in the modern world. Explore how success is defined differently across personal achievements, career, and societal expectations. So to be able to get those 2 to 3 pages or 500 to 750 words, you're going to have to extend beyond just a regular dictionary definition of success. The same thing with freedom, right? The meaning of freedom in a digital age, right? Here, define freedom in the context of the internet, social media. Consider the implications of digital privacy, online expression, and virtual communities. So again, you're giving me your own sort of personal definition throughout your paragraphs of what you think freedom as it relates to the digital age is, or success in the modern world, or courage in a contemporary society, or identity in a multicultural world, or creativity in our 21st century. So I'm looking for your personal definition as you extend from the introduction to the body paragraphs to your conclusion. Now, granted, you're only going to have 60 minutes or 1 hour to type this. That's why I say you can't already have a pre-written draft of anything written. You want to make an outline of this particular paper. That would probably be the easiest thing to do, right? Microsoft Word has outline templates. If you go to, and I'm going to show you this real quick. If you go to your Microsoft Word, go to File, and go to New. If you type in something like outline or essay outline, it should bring something up. Let me see here. You probably have to go to more templates because I think what I'm doing with that is wanting to search for all these other essays. So let me see. Search templates. Let's see. Outline. It's going to give you a few depending on what's all on your particular version of Word. But here's one. If you double click that and hit create, it's going to give you a generic outline, but you can take this stuff, you can, get rid of this, you can leave the letters and that type stuff, and you can type in the stuff you want in for your A, B, and C, for your 1, 2 example for the first point, for your second point. And then you can sort of copy and paste and add more points to this, but you already have an outline here. You just have to go back and sort of fill in based on your particular topic. Uh, the beauty about this is that you can print this out and you can write as much as you want all over this outline as long as you can read it, of course. Unless you have the printer capabilities or where it prints front and back, you still, when you print this out, you still have the full back page of this particular page 1 or page 2 or how long your outline is. You still have that blank page in the back. You can write notes. You can do additional things too. You just can't have a fully written draft of any sort, whether typed, whether handwritten. You can't have that because that's going to be considered cheating. And like I said, they're going to want you to have your web mic and webcam, like I'm doing here, open because they're probably going to want you to take, besides you showing them a college ID at first and then taking a picture, they're going to want you to go around your room with your camera to look at your computer, the desk, everything that's around you, but basically in a 360 fashion, and make sure there's nobody, behind the couch, or, you don't have notes and stuff written on, you don't have the essay sort of taped on the wall that you keep looking back at. I would be careful about wearing hats. And really, it's the third party. I mean, I do have time to come in there sometimes to, pop in to see what's going on. You won't know that I'm in there. The third party respondus person won't know I'm in there. Um, but if I'm not having something to do, teach a class, travel, grade, I may pop in and see what's going on, just to see if things are working well or flowing. You won't know that I'm there, but if I'm not there, you still have somebody with respondus on the other side of that screen watching your move. So be careful. Again, like I said in the email, I wouldn't have a lot of noise going on, TV, loud radio. If you like me, you got 2 kids, 2 daughters. They have friends in and out. I would be careful about having people coming back and forth, whether adults, whether kids, because it gets loud. It's going to mess up your concentration, but also, the person on the other side that's recording, you may think that, hey, this person's got their kid coming in, giving them notes and trying to cheat and that type of stuff. So, I mean, they get kind of petty sometimes about what they flag. I've had them flag stuff, people wearing a Atlanta Braves ball cap and they flag that as being a religious symbol. So, I mean, don't get don't be wearing stuff that's going to flag you about 4 or 5 minutes into the actual exam, because they will shut it down. They will send me the tape, and then we have to go through. I mean, if something looks like, I mean, if it's 100%, hey, you are cheating, you do have a draft, you're sitting there basically typing it, you're doing this verbatim, I know that you're cheating. If you finish the essay, a lot of tall tale signs lets me know that you basically copied and paste or have some sort of a draft already written. Is I give you 60 minutes. Most folks that do this well with an outline and note cards need at least 35 to 40 minutes. If you are turning in a 3-page paper, 2 to 3 page paper in 10 minutes, I know something's up. Because nobody can type that fast, especially proofread, spell check, have everything, perfect and ready to go. It's going to take you probably a few minutes just to get sort of oriented with your environment because it's probably new to you. So, I mean, generally you do need those essays that usually score higher with the midterm are usually ones that take 35 to 40 minutes to create. Use your time wisely. Make sure that you save your work before you submit it, because otherwise, if you don't save anything and you submit and there's a blank page, because it's not going to let you use Microsoft Word, you're going to have to use the text box. There's going to be a box down below, sort of like you've seen on those discussion boards and the weekly assignments where some of you are just typing in instead of copying and pasting or whatever. So you're going to have to type this one in. So I know I say put MLA format double space. Do the best that you can with that. I know because of the text box, it may not work that well. As long as I can read, right? If I know your first paragraph is your introduction, I can find your thesis. I know your second paragraph is basically body paragraph one. I can find the topic sentence. As long as I can read it, you're not writing, in some funky font or funky color, you're okay. I'm not going to necessarily take off so much for the MLA format because I know you're not going to be able to use Microsoft Word to do it. So, as it relates to 2 to 3 pages, how will I know? Again, I can copy and paste what you have saved and I can put that into Microsoft Word. And really, what I'm looking at that point too, because how are you going to know if it's 2 or 3 pages? I'm looking at the word count. So if you get close to 500 words, that's about 2 pages, especially if you double spaced everything, which again, I'm not going to take off so much for the format. If you get close to 750 words, that's close to 3 pages. There should be a word count on the text box. There is a spell check on the text box. There's not really a grammar check, so you're gonna have to double check your grammar for your commas and stuff. So usually, what I do when it comes to these in class or respondents timed essay, because you're only going to have 60 minutes, you don't have the opportunity to run a draft by me or have a peer review of this thing. I'm looking at big ideas. Meaning, I'm not so much worried about the grammar as long as you're not making the same mistake every other sentence. Let's say that you have 2 or 3 comma splices. I'm okay. I mean, that's you really want to know how to fix those. And I'm sure probably if you had time outside of the 60 minutes, you probably would go back and fix them. It's when you start having, let's say you have 500 words and about every other sentence you have a comma splice in it. You have 50 comma splices. Well, that's distracting. And I can't overlook that. So I will take off points if you have multiple errors, same error going on time in and time out. The same thing with spelling, because you do have a spell check. Everybody should be, when it comes to the spelling aspect, get 100% on it because the spelling is there. The spell check is there. Use it. But just kind of keep in mind, I wouldn't take this until you're in a place that you can actually commit to 1 hour type in a quiet area. So that's why I said in the email too. If you're still in a location where your power or your internet or your computer is sort of wishy-washy, meaning if the wind blows one way really high, it's going to knock stuff off. Then what I would suggest, and again, if you don't have a web mic or webcam, you're going to have to be able to get those things. So I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to buy those. Because if you go to your closest Coastal Pines Technical College, library, or the testing center during business hours, you can use our computer, you can use our internet, you can use the webcam, the web mic. We have all of that stuff for you. The only problem is you have to come to us for it during our hours. So most libraries and campuses open Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 6. I would give myself at least, depending on how far you're driving and where you're going to, I would at least give myself 2 to 3 hours, drive there, drive back, and then actually taking the test. So I wouldn't recommend, going to a testing site or the library at 5:30 in the afternoon on a Thursday. Because again, they shut down at 6 o'clock. They're probably going to be wanting you to leave at 6. So if you start the test at 5:30 and you're telling them, hey, well, I have an hour, well, yeah, that puts you to 6:30, but they close at 6. You see the problem there. So they're probably not going to be too happy. Some may stay over, some may not. I mean, it's really their prerogative at that point because they do open at 7:30 in the morning and close at 6 in the afternoon. So that would only give you 30 minutes. So basically 15 minutes to type, 15 minutes to proofread and edit, which is not a whole lot of time, especially when I'm granting you a full 60 minutes. Uh, the downside of that is I mean, you have to go by whatever the college schedule is. So Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 6. Again, I would double check if you're in Baxley or Hazelhurst or something like that. Their testing center and their library hours may be different than Waycross or Camden or Glenn. So I would definitely double check to see when they're open and when they close, so you don't start this thing late and having to rush. The flip side of that is if you are able to take it from home, you have until the 11:59 deadline on Halloween to do so, because you know how most campuses are going to be closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You could take this at the comfort of your own home, 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday, if you have all the working equipment. Um, so weigh your odds there. Again, if you work, this is just one of those exams. I can't really postpone it. I can't extend it. We have to do it by the 31st. Otherwise, everything is going to get sort of crammed up on us on our last month. So if you need to take time off during the day, I would make sure that you let your employer or your boss know, hey, I got to do this thing. I would definitely make sure that all your computer equipment, if you decide to take it at home, is up to date, meaning you're not going to have some random computer update at 9:30 at night kick in once you hit start, and it's going to kick you off. Because once you start, that's it. You have 60 minutes. You have to sit there and type. Now you can get up and move around and go to the bathroom or whatever the case you want to do, but keep in mind your time is ticking. And once it gets to 61 minutes, it shuts down, closes, and sends whatever you saved. So if you didn't save anything, it's just going to be blank, and it's going to be very easy for me to grade because now it's just a zero. I don't want that to happen to people, but be mindful of your time. Please save, because again, you don't have the ability to, type this up on Microsoft Word and save it there. You're just going to have to type it in the text box. I will give you a little bit more detail as it relates to the respondents in general, but this is your topic. These are your topics, rather. So pick one of these. Make sure that you fill out your outline. If you want note cards, somebody emailed me a couple of days ago or a week ago, how many note cards, how big? I don't care how big you have them. I don't care how many you have them. As long as you're not writing your full essay front and back on the note card, I don't care what you have. I hope what you have is relatable and will help you with the outline. But if you want to have 35 note cards, or if you want to have 4 note cards, if you want to have them really small or really big, that's up to you. I'm not going to take up your note cards or your outline. That's mainly to help you so you're not sitting there, looking at a blank screen for 20 minutes just to figure out what to type. Because if you did the outline and you have your note cards with you, you should be able to hit the floor, running or typing, so they say, once you get into the actual exam. Now, I'm going to show you real quick what's going to happen if you don't download the Respondus program, or you don't download it to the proper device that you're using. Because you can hit begin, right? And I don't have Respondus logged in or anything at this point. It's going to do this. When it does that, it means, one, you didn't download the proper Respondus, or you didn't download Respondus at all. Because if it asks for a password, you did something wrong on your end. I don't know the password. Like I said in the email, the program generates a new password for each person. I don't know what it is because it's computer generated. If you did everything right on your end, meaning you downloaded the right Respondus app to your device, it's going to bypass this and take you to the next section of the exam, which is basically getting you ready to take the exam taking your picture, taking your, the picture of your ID and your current picture. So if you see this, then you're doing something wrong on your end, and I can't help that part of it because I don't know if you downloaded the wrong app, if you just didn't download the app at all. We're going to go back and look at those videos, or I can show you where those videos are. But you need to go back and look and read some of that stuff and watch some of that stuff, because if it shows this, you're never going to be able to get into the exam. And, like I said, not to be rude, emailing me about a password is not going to help you because I don't know it. Um, so you're just wasting your time asking me for a password. All right, so let's kick back out. So again, modular 7 and 8, that's where you're going to find your midterm essay, your respondents essay, and that's where you're going to actually find the test or the Dropbox to do all that stuff in. If we go back, this wants to keep pushing me back to that test. If you go back to modular 9 and modular 10, as you can tell, they're both open. You can kind of work ahead if you're caught up with your related storm assignments. If you're finished with your respondus midterm, you can go ahead and start working week 9 and week 10 if you want. Technically, this week is week 9. Next week would be week 10, and of course we're starting to finish out October here. So I give you some general guidelines of what to expect in this week, as well as in week 10. If we look at week 9, you do have some reading in your e-text, or you can click this hyperlink that deals with research, getting ready for the research paper, that type deal. These will be, or this particular link is where you're going to find your research paper topics. We're going to download that here momentarily. There is a video about how to write a successful research proposal. They may give you a little bit more than what you would need for this particular assignment or this class, but I would definitely look at it because, again, it's helpful. And then I give you some information about the actual proposal assignment, which, again, you have a rough draft and then a final draft that it's going to be done. But to be able to understand your proposal assignment, you need to pick a topic from this research paper list. So let's go ahead and click that up. Get rid of me for a minute and let's just focus on this. So as you can tell, this one does need to be in MLA format, double space, Times New Roman 12. You need to have at least 6 to 8 pages, or 1,500 to 2,000 words, whatever comes first, plus a works cited page. You also need to have at least 6 scholarly sources. And if we go back to that particular page that I have here, we will talk about how to paraphrase, how to directly quote, how to block quote, summarize in the weeks to come. But you will need to go to a library of some sort, because of the 6, 4 of those sources need to come from a library, whether it's our college library, whether it's a public library. If you're a dual enrollment student, your high school should have a library, but 4 sources must come from a library, meaning you need to have 2 academic or scholarly books, and you need to have 2 academic or scholarly journal articles that relate to whatever research paper topic you choose. Now, the final 2 sources can come from a academic or scholarly website, meaning anything that ends with .edu, .org, or .gov is fair game. Wikipedia is not really a scholarly website. So, I mean, you can use Wikipedia to sort of get some general ideas. In the weeks to come, I will show you how you can kind of use their works cited or reference page at the end to sort of piggyback and find really good scholarly works. But you can't just use Wikipedia page, quote stuff off of that, and count that as a source. If you do, you still have to cite it, but you still need to have an additional source. So that's not going to count as a academic website, is basically what I'm getting at. So instead of having 6, you would have 7, because you have to go back and find a real academic website to fit that. .com sites, news outlets have .com sites. Be wary. Again, we're going to do some library orientation virtually here in the coming weeks. You can use .com sites, but just be careful. I would make sure that they are academic in nature in some way, shape, or form, because anybody can say, anything on, Facebook or X or Instagram. They all in the .coms, but unless they actually are experts or have a degree in that particular area, you're not going to know if they're really telling the truth or not. And for this particular research paper, you want to be as objective and as neutral as possible, meaning we don't really need to use first person. I don't need your personal opinion necessarily on your particular topic. This really needs to be written in third person. So you don't want to use second person, which is using you and your. Some of you are losing points because you keep using second person within these last 3 or 4 essays. Don't use second person unless you're quoting somebody that's using you or you're or something of that nature. You want to keep this in third person. So again, I would say once you have a topic in mind, right, and we have a list here, I give you a lot. There's 23, and then you got a 24, which is a writer's choice. We'll talk about that here momentarily. Each one of these topics, you should be able to find easily 6 scholarly resources on because they're relevant within the last 20 to 25 years. If we look, number 1, homelessness. Who is to blame? Number 2 is a really good one. Should marijuana be legalized at the national level? Number 3, how to detect bias in news media. Number 4, why has social media made people less connected to reality? Number 5, conflict history of Israel and Palestine. Number 6, what is the correlation between stress levels and procrastination? Number 7, is there a one-size-fits-all strategy for education? Number 8, U.S. nursing shortage, cause and potential effects on the nation's health. Number 9, how does cyberbullying affect one's health? Number 10, are electric vehicles indeed better for the environment? Number 11, methods of sex trafficking prevention. Number 12, virus prevention strategies during pandemics. Remember, 4 years ago we had COVID. COVID is probably the biggest one we had in our lifetime, but there's been others prior to COVID that you can kind of do a little bit of research and talk about, maybe compare and contrast, or do a problem solution paper or a pro and con paper. Number 13, obesity in childhood causes, impacts, and prevention. Number 14, psychological disorders among older adults caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Some of these you can kind of switch out. You don't necessarily have to use older adults. You can use teenagers or young adults or kids, right? You can kind of switch some of these terms out if need be and they fit. Number 15, is the deadly fungi pandemic and The Last of Us actually possible? Number 16, is mushroom foraging a safe hobby? Why or why not? Number 17, what real life dangers did cowboys in the Old West have to face? Several students in the past did that one really well. The number 17. You're going to have to do a little bit of research for that, but it can be a really fun paper to write. Number 18, what are the different types of phishing and how can you protect your information online? Number 19, what are the benefits and risks of backyard beekeeping? Number 20, what are the benefits and risks of raising chickens in your backyard? Number 21, is the Korean skincare method actually effective? 22, how did locomotives shape in American industry? I had a few students in the past do number 22. 23, what are the health benefits associated with regular yoga practice? And the 24 is writer's choice, meaning if you look at the first 23 and nothing is really, popping out at you, it's not really exciting to you, whatever the case may be, but you have a particular research topic you're passionate about that you know that you can give me 6 to 8 pages and you can find, 6 scholarly sources, please email me before you even start drafting, right? I would email me before you even get started with the proposal, which is what we're going to talk about, because to be able to do the proposal, the rough draft or the final draft, you need to pick a topic from this, or you need to give me a topic that you plan on using. Um, the reason why I say if you do number 24, you need to let me know before you really get started, because I need to know where you plan on going with it. I need to see, are you really thinking seriously about it? Are you going to have enough to give me at least 6 pages and 6 scholarly sources? Because nothing's worse than to have a really good topic. And then when you actually sit down and have to go out and do the footwork for the research and stuff, you only find 3 sources. When you actually start drafting it, you only give me 4 pages. Now you're really short, right? You're short at least 2 pages and you're short at least, 3 sources. So your grade is going to have a negative downfall because of that. So again, if you choose the writer's choice, make sure you let me know what you plan on doing before you even start drafting your proposal, because I don't want you to get already into the proposal stage and it seems like you got enough, but when you get going to the library, weeks 11, 12, you're starting to build that annotated bibliography for that next assignment, and you realize, oh, I can only find two pieces of research on my topic, so I know I'm not going to be able to do too well on this. Then you're going to have to go back and kind of redo everything over, meaning you'd have to pick another topic, you'd have to give me another proposal. It would just be a big waste of time on your part, um, that we could have avoided had you let me know before you actually started on the proposal. So the actual research paper, I believe, and I have to double check, the final draft is going to be due, I believe it's going to be Wednesday, December 4th. So you have a little bit of time with the drafting process. I mean, what we're doing with the proposal and then the annotated bib, this is all building toward that rough draft. So sort of keep that in mind. Everything is sort of layered to help you along the way. But ultimately, this particular final draft is going to be due by 11:59 on Wednesday, December 4th. That's not to say that, hey, don't do anything between now and then, because you do have other assignments that relate, that come back to this particular overall major research paper and your topic. One is the proposal, which, if you look down below in the same area, you see it right here. So after you pick a topic, and again, I would download these, print these out, save it, whatever the case may be, because once this closes after the 20th, it's going to be hard to get back in here and get these topics. Same thing with this. I would download this, print this out, keep it, so you know what the instructions are. So once you download it, you're going to see that there are a series of questions. And again, you're not going to be able to answer these questions unless you have a research paper topic in mind. And what you're going to have to do is, as you can tell here, what is your thesis or research question? The thing about your topic you want to find out. Your topic must be opinionated and well phrased and formulated rather than a petty observation about your topic. Again, if you don't have a topic, you didn't pick a topic from the research paper topic list, it's going to be hard to answer, number one. Number two, how do you plan to support this thesis/research question? And I give you some hints, right? This particular question does not really focus on the sources you will use at this point, but it is a question of the techniques, type of paragraph, style you plan on employing. It is like an analysis of your analytical style. You can briefly outline your paper here if you like, or you could tell me, hey, I plan on writing a argumentative paper, or a persuasive paper, or a problem solution paper, or a pro and con paper. Probably you're not going to write a narrative, right? We've already done that. You can't really do a research paper narrative. probably not going to write a research paper, describing stuff. You can use some of those components throughout, but we've already talked about narration. We've already talked about descriptive. Now you could, because SA3 was a compare and contrast paper, you could sort of do a compare and contrast on some of these topics if you wanted to. You can do a cause and effect paper. We've looked at some of this stuff in some of the videos over the last few weeks, and in your e-text reading. Um, SA4 is an extended definition. You can apply some of that technique to this particular research paper if you got to, define certain terms that your general audience would not know. And that your general audience could be me. I don't know everything. I don't know every term. In a lot of ways, this is sort of going to be your baby, your beauty. You're going to be able to take your topic and go in a lot of different directions as long as you have the research to back it up. So really in the end, when I read that final draft, I want to learn just as much as you did throughout these next 4 or 5 weeks. So in a lot of ways, you're sort of teaching your audience what you have learned, what interest you have gathered. Have you learned something new? Just because you're passionate and interested about a particular topic doesn't mean you know everything either. So that's why you go out and do some of the research, and you're going to allow your audience to sort of see that, flower and bloom and flourish through page 1 to page 5 to page 7, whatever the case may be. Um, Number 3 may be one that's going to be a little bit difficult to answer, and I will give you a little bit of leeway on that just because you probably, by the time you have to turn in your final draft of your proposal, which is going to be about in 2 weeks, November 3rd, I believe, is when the final one is going to be due. The 27th of October is when your rough draft is going to be due. Unless you're already out there collecting your 6 sources, which honestly I would try to do. The quicker you get that done, you can go ahead and start reading and deciphering through and figuring out what you want to use as quotations and that type stuff. But I do realize there's a lot going on. Um, so with number 3, you may not have all 6 outside scholarly sources by the time you do your rough draft or your final draft or your proposal. I would try to at least get 2 to 3, or at least let me know about 2 or 3. So you'll be able to answer this particular question. Don't just leave it blank. I would give me something, even if it's sort of a generic answer to sort of just, hey, there's something there. But I realize you're not going to probably be able, unless you just go out and you don't have anything else on your plate, you want to go ahead and get all 6 sources. That's fine too. But if you look at the hint, I said you do not have to have read all of them yet, but try to have at least 3 reliable sources ready by the time you turn in the proposal. So that could be 1 book, 1 journal article, and 1 internet website. That sort of splits the hairs there. That gives me at least 3 that you've already looked at, read, and kind of thought about. You just have to go out and get the other 3. You can go that way with it if you want. Such an approach tries to ensure that you do not go about getting sources at the last minute. That's the whole deal. I don't, especially because when we get into the next component, which is the second part or the second stage of the research paper, the annotated bibs, you definitely need all 6 sources by then. So in some ways, if you get them earlier, you're actually saving time during weeks 11, 12, 13. So you're not actually out there spending more time in the library trying to get this stuff. So you can kind of work ahead on this as it relates to gathering sources and stuff. And nothing's worse than having to rush, especially if you're waiting to the last 2 days before the annotated bib is due. That's going to be a little bit more of a demanding, technical, scientific project. The proposal really should be probably one of the easiest written projects that everybody does here. If you answer these questions in order 1 through 5, it should be a very easy way to get an A, I hope. The annotated bib is going to be a little bit more of a beast if you don't follow directions with that. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in week 11 and week 12. But there is a specific way you want to set up the annotated bibs. And if you don't have your 6 scholarly sources that you plan on using in your research paper, the annotated bib is going to be one heck of a headache for you. But you're going to have time, again, if you use your time wisely. to do well on each one of these assignments. Number 4, what is the best source at this stage? What makes it the best source? What sources do you think you might need? Again, it really depends on how much you have for 3, how you're going to be able to answer 4. If you look at the hint here in research, there is so much out there that is really important to think if an interview, a survey, a graph, an online discussion, an editorial piece, a blog, etc., would be useful because each type of source might provide a different type of ethos, logos, or pathos-based justification for your essay. So remember, we're getting more into the argumentative and persuasive when we're dealing with ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos is the ethical appeal. You may have heard of these rhetorical appeals. I put up a particular chart, I think it was last week. And I might need to find that again and email that out, but it talks a little bit about the 3 rhetorical appeals coming back from Greek and Latin literary elements. You got logos, which is basically the logical appeal, and you have pathos, which is more the pathetical appeal. You see a lot of this stuff in advertisements. When you're doing the first 3 or 4 essays, you were doing a little bit of the ethical logos and pathos, maybe without even knowing it. Definitely with elections coming up here in the next couple weeks, they really hit the ethos, logos, and pathos during their speeches, during their campaigns, that type of stuff. And you see that a lot. Number 5, what is the whole point of the topic? Hint, what motivated you to pursue this topic? So what, right? You want to be able to answer that so what question. Why do you care about this topic? Why should your readers? Do not be fooled by how short this question is. It's really a vital, important question, right? Besides, hey, my professor wanted me to, pick a research paper topic so I can get a decent grade. You want to pick something that you're going to be passionate about, that you care about, because it's going to make the next, 6 weeks enjoyable instead of just a dread for you. Again, that's why I offer nearly 25 topics. So we're not all doing the same topic where you might not have interest in that particular topic. Your interest and my interest and your partner's interest over here may be, totally different. And that's fine. I would rather read different styles and different topics than hey, we're doing it all on marijuana use. Should it be legalized or shouldn't? I don't want to read all of that, right? I mean, you wouldn't want to read 90 papers that deal just with marijuana. So that's why it's good to have a variety. If you scroll down, and again, if you look here, kind of give you some guidance. This is what a sample, and I'm going to bring this down a little bit. This is what an A quality proposal looks like. And I'm going to blow this down. Again, you have it's going to be an MLA format. Everything's going to be double spaced, going to be Times New Roman 12. You're going to have your header here. You're going to have some sort of a tentative title, right? Don't just call it research paper proposal. Give me a tentative title of what might your research paper title be. Of course, you have some time to go back and change it, but I need to have something. The only thing missing here, and I really couldn't do it here, was, your last name and the page number. Some of y'all are forgetting this, or some of y'all are just putting your last name and not the page number, or some of y'all are putting the page number and not your last name. So make sure that you have your last name space page number, because when you go to the second page, if you do have a second page, it should say Jones 2, then Jones 3, Jones 4, so on and so forth. Now, if you do this right and correctly, you should probably have about a page. And what I said over here in the actual margins is that your answer to number 1 is going to be your first paragraph. So this is question 1. This is answer 1. The answer number 2 is going to be your second paragraph, as you can tell here. The answer number 3 is going to be your third paragraph. The answer number 4 is going to be your fourth paragraph, and then your fifth answer is going to be your last paragraph. So think of it sort of like a 5-paragraph deal, but your answers here, if you go in order, make up your paragraphs. So if you look here, if we cut off the header and the title, if I just highlight the text, This person had, put this out of the way. Let's see. If you look down here at the word count, we have nearly 340 words. So, roughly 250 to 400, 250 to 500. You should have a really solid full page, and that's it. I mean, answer the questions to the best of your ability, have those questions become your paragraph, or have your answers of those questions become your paragraph. And then when you get to the last one, that's it. It should really only be one full page, which usually when you double space and stuff is usually about 250 words. It's a little bit lengthier. But I would say I would keep it 250 to 400 words. If you can say it in less, but still answer the questions and it makes sense, then say it in less. I mean, you don't have to turn this into a full blown research paper because this is not the research paper. This is your proposal to your research paper. This is basically telling me, hey, you have thought about the topic. You're going into a little bit more, giving me some additional insight through these 5 questions. This is why I want to sort of take this particular topic and actually write it and go to the next stage on it. So this is really going to give, basically give you the green light if you got a really good topic to pursue. And generally most folks do once they pick one and then they start really digging in and answering some of these questions. I will say this, if you pick a topic from the research paper list and you can't answer, because really if you look, each one of those paragraphs is going to be about 20 points. That's where the 100 is going to come in, right? So I would say if you can't answer, I would say at least 3 to 4 of these, then you need to pick a different, you really need to pick a different topic. Because I mean, if you can only answer 3, you can do the math. If you did really well on all 3, 20 times 3 is what? That's a 60. That's a D. That's not really a good research paper topic I would probably want to pursue. Same thing, if you only answer 2, 20 times, well, you can do the math again. That's 40. That's an F. So you want to be able to answer at least all 4 to 5 of these confidently. Because that's going to tell me, hey, you probably got a pretty good topic you can probably pursue to the annotated bib stage. You can start, collecting your 6 sources, getting ready to draft the actual research paper. Because otherwise, I mean, if you can't answer a good bit of these questions, you're just wasting your time and your grade's going to suffer from it. And really, you could have avoided all of that by running through picking a better topic, asking me for, some suggestions on your topic. All right. So that's the research paper proposal. Those are the research paper topics. And I will have to, again, you might want to look at this particular video. It's less than 5 minutes. I'm going to go back here to see. I don't think I have a Dropbox just yet. I might. Okay, I do. So a rough draft and a final. As you can tell, these are the due dates for those. In week 10, you do have another set of reading to look at. You can either click here or go to your e-text of those pages. This gets you a little bit into orientation to the library. There is a slideshow at first. In weeks 11 and 12, you will probably see an actual orientation video. There's going to be some extra credit attached to that because there's going to be a pre-test and post-test as it relates to the library orientation slideshow and the videos that I'm going to show you. And again, you have a chance to get up to 10 points on a particular essay of your choosing. I will let you know when that is going to be available and give you a little bit more details on that next form of extra credit. The other thing that you're going to want to keep in mind is, and some of y'all might have already told me this, but if you haven't, if you have a peer review that you didn't do so well on or missed or, scored poorly on, or if you didn't turn in one of those weekly assignments, like the Hughes or the Wright piece, not a major essay, I will drop one of those. Can't drop two, but I will drop one. So let's say that, peer review two, you made a 50 on. If you want that one dropped, email me, tell me which one you want me to drop. I'll drop it. That will help the grade. Let's say you did really well in the peer reviews, because really there are easy 100s. Let's say you didn't do so well on that last write assignment or fish assignment or whatever the last weekly writing was. Let's say you made a 72 on and that was your lowest one. Well, email me and let me know, and I will drop that one. Again, I can only drop one. I can't drop two, and I can't drop an essay. Meaning, if you just didn't do essay two and you want me to drop, well, I can't drop that because that's a big part of your grade. You just didn't do it. So, but I will drop one of these low stake, basically what they're called low stake assignments. If you let me know, if you want to see sort of the results early on, let me know, obviously today, tomorrow, this week. If you want to wait until about Thanksgiving to see where everything is at, you can kind of let me know there. I will grant everybody this opportunity. I kind of want to, I usually send this stuff out about midterm just so I don't forget it as it gets closer to the end of the semester. So if you don't let me know by the week of Thanksgiving, I'm just going to go through and drop whatever your lowest grade is for you. I just like to give you the opportunity to have a little bit of say because it is your grade. You may see something there that you want me to drop a little bit more than I do. But if you don't let me know, say November 24th or 25th, I'm going to just go in and exempt that particular low grade, and we're going to move on. All right, so I will send out another video about the respondus. Hopefully that one won't be as lengthy as this. Again, we're covering 2 weeks here, so it's this week and next. So that's why it's a little bit lengthy, and plus I really haven't had the chance to do a really fully linked video on stuff since the storm and all the craziness that's been going on. I hope everybody has a great Tuesday. I hope week 9 goes well for you. And I hope week 10 goes well as, hopefully we won't have another storm or anything like that. We have to, sort of vacate the office or class or whatever the case may be. That's getting kind of to be a pain. And I know for those that are getting power and internet, you don't want to go ahead and start losing that again, because I know that was a pain too. And it's still, today was decent. We got a cold front or something moving in, but the last 2 weeks has still been kind of relatively hot, especially if you don't have AC in your house. So I hope everybody's doing well. I will probably have another weekly lecture during week 11 when we start talking about the annotated BIPs. Email me, let me know if there's anything I can help you with. Again, make sure you get the makeup work in by this Sunday, the 20th. Make sure you do the Respondus midterm essay by Halloween, 11:59, which is a Thursday. And then, start working on choosing a research paper topic and getting that proposal drafted by the 27th, which is October 27th, which is a Sunday as well. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.